I am the founding principal to Earthla LLC, which is a Portland-based law firm that specializes in the industrial hemp practice area. I am also the chief legislative strategist for Agricultural Hemp Solutions, which is a national lobbying firm. And I have worked on hemp policy for the last 10 years. I have been involved with the hemp and cannabis industries for the last 14 years. And I have been interested in hemp since as early as 2008. In 2008, I was a senior in college and I was taking a plant biology class, and I was given this book, The Emperor Wears No Clothes by Jack Herer, edited by Chris Conrad. And I could not believe what I was reading when I started reading this book. It talks all about the history of cannabis, all of the conspiracies as to why hemp and cannabis became illegal, all of the environmental benefits, and all of the uses for this plant. And I just couldn't believe that a plant that can clean up toxins in soil as it's growing, has the ability to produce thousands of sustainable products, was a Schedule I controlled substance, just because of confusion with its cousin plant and this reefer madness fear that had been emanating for over 100 years. So when I went to law school, I actually had the opportunity to intern for National Normal in Washington, D.C. And I interned for Keith Straub, the founder of Normal. At the time, there were several medical marijuana programs around the country, and we were working on reciprocity and caregiver laws and providing guidance and updates to folks working in those states. And I started working with some other lawyers, including a few lawyers in Oregon. Following law school, I moved to Oregon, took the bar, and actually started doing medical marijuana criminal defense work. But I knew very quickly that that was not what I wanted to be doing. My passion was industrial hemp. So I actually went back to school, earned a Master of Laws at Lewis and Clark Law School in Environmental and Natural Resources Law. And at the same time as my LL.M program, Oregon State University was offering the world's first industrial hemp university course. So simultaneously, I took this course on industrial hemp at OSU, and it enabled me to really focus my LL.M on industrial hemp and industrial hemp law before there really was industrial hemp law, because this was in 2013. And the very first day of my LL.M program, my climate change law professor asked me, "Why are you getting your LL.M?" And I told her, "I want to run a hemp program." And she asked me, "Is that a thing?" And I said, "No." And then she said, "Have you ever even seen a hemp plant?" And I said, "No." And she was like, "Okay." So I knew that I had to go out and pursue this, because this was something that I really cared about, and I needed to find like-minded individuals. And I already knew from working at Normal that there were folks out there that really cared about this plant the way that I did, that we really needed to do something to change the law and the policy. In February of 2014, the 2014 Farm Bill was signed into law, which included Section 7606 that authorized hemp research in states that had already legalized hemp and developed their agricultural pilot programs. So now I'm sitting here thinking, okay, we have state authority in Oregon, which there was a bill passed by Senator Brzezinski here in Oregon in 2009. We now have federal authority. We have farmers interested. Congressman Blumenauer is fully supportive of this. Let's get going and start a program. That June of 2014, I actually hosted a Hemp History Week event. We held an informational event. We screened the video Bringing It Home to talk about all the benefits and uses for industrial hemp. And after that meeting, I talked with one of the farmers, Rick Rutherford. We thought, if there's federal authority and there's state authority, why can he not have a license? So on his behalf, I actually wrote a letter to the Oregon Department of Agriculture. I wrote out all of the details of the Oregon legal authority, the federal legal authority, what was happening at the time in Colorado, Kentucky, and Vermont, because those 3 states were already implementing pilot programs and allowing their farmers to grow. And we submitted that to the Department of Agriculture. I actually created an application for them, and they denied it, saying they did not have rules in place for the program. So they actually then put me on the Rules Advisory Committee. We met in August of 2014. We had rules drafted by December of 2014, and we had our first hemp license issued in Oregon in 2015. We all thought, this is fantastic, we're going to get to grow, there's all this authority, and we originally had 13 licensees sign up and apply and get their licenses, but then we actually started having issues with the marijuana community because they were very afraid of cross-pollination. Oregon was just legalizing adult use. We already had our medical programs, and while we tried to bring the industrial hemp hopefuls that wanted to be involved in the industry together with the marijuana industry together, they were not able to come to an agreement, and the marijuana industry went to the Oregon Capitol and were actually successful in getting a bill introduced, House Bill 2668, that actually would have shut the hemp industry in Oregon down. It would have ceased licensing for 2 years. It would have given funding to OSU for doing research, but it would have shut down the licensees that already had their licenses. Knowing what we had just gone through to get to this point to even get the licenses, and also having a deep understanding of what cross-pollination actually is, what it isn't, I, as a citizen advocate, was incessantly emailing the Oregon legislature just to let them know what cross-pollination is, what it isn't, what the impact of their legislation would actually be. And my emails actually caught the attention of Representative Carl Wilson and the House Majority Leader at the time, Val Hoyle, who is now one of our congresswomen. And they called me and they invited me down to testify. I gave testimony regarding cross-pollination, the impact of this legislation, what the opportunities were with industrial hemp. And in the audience to the hearing were 2 of the licensees that had the hemp licenses. One of them actually hired me on the spot to become his lobbyist. And we worked together that 2015 session to actually shut down this bill. We were successful. It was House Bill 2668, which we stopped. It was an incredible victory because we actually saw hemp grown and produced in Oregon during the 2015 production season. And that is what started my legislative journey.